Hello, and welcome to another American Photo Trucks post-processing video. I'm Dave Soldano, and want to thank you all for attending our Fall Colors workshop, both of them, and this video will be for both days. And thank you very much. We had a really good time, great group of people. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I do. And I'm going to do two videos for this particular workshop because there were two situations that I thought could present some challenges. And so I'll at least show you how I tackled those challenges, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of at least where to start on your own particular images. I've already seen some images on Facebook and a couple on the web page, the meetup page, and I can see that you guys have already done a really good job of processing those pictures, and really proud of the images that have come out of some of those workshops. And please tag us. I really love to see the images, and of course it's good publicity for us if our attendees come up with all the great images that you guys come up with. So the first image that I'm going to process is going to be Maroon bells. And I'm going to do that because I thought it presented a particular challenge. You had that really dark foreground and then the bright sky, and then you had those, the alpenglow on the top of the mountain, and so that presents a challenge. And of course, in the tip sheet and on scene, we asked you guys to bracket, and some of you also did bring a graduated neutral density filter, and I showed you how that helped. The pictures that I'm going to be processing right now did not have the graduated neutral density filter. These were just taken straight out of camera, but I'll show you how you can get very similar effects digitally as if you had that graduated ND filter with it. So I'm going to take these are the 5 images. I'll highlight them. And I'm working in Adobe Bridge right now. That's just the program I use to catalog my images. And these are the 5 images that I created with my bracketed shots. And as you can see, there were -2 EV, -1 EV, correctly exposed, -1, and -2, or +1 and +2. And as I look at these, the question is, do I have enough information to, let's say, just process my correctly the correctly exposed image, which took kind of a neutral, mid-range average of the shot and created the image. And I'll open this just for a second so you can see it. And this is using, an average metering. And we can see that the sky, you can see a little in the sky, little in the shadows over here. I mean, it's not a bad image, and we could probably do a lot with it in post, but I think we can do more if we combine a couple images here. That's what I'm going to attempt to do. And you can follow along with me as I click. You can see that exactly what I'm clicking, and the keystrokes that I'm making all show up right here, so you can follow along with me. So I think what I'm going to do here, and I have not processed this, so we're going to be doing this for the first time. I think just looking at these images, I've got enough information in my -1 EV and my +1 EV that I can make an HDR image just using those 3 images, and it'll come out pretty good. So I'm just going to highlight those 3 images. I'm going to double click, and that opens it in Adobe Camera Raw. And there it is. And boy, didn't we have a great reflection. Don't worry, I'll get rid of this. I'll show you how to do all that. And there we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my white balance is the same on all 3 of those images. And it is. It's 5200 -12. And all I really care is that it's the same on all 3 images, because if it's not, it can create some kind of weird artifacts. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to say enable profile correction, and you see how that kind of corrected the vignette and a little bit of the distortion that occurred as a result of my my lens. I think I had it somewhere around 35 millimeters, maybe right about here. So I will click here and say select all. And I'm going to use the HDR program that it comes right here in Adobe Camera Raw. The reason I do that is I like the way it creates a digital negative file that's a very powerful file, and I can do a whole lot with it, and I'll show you as I go. So here we're going to say merge to HDR, and we'll let the computer do what it needs to do. Of course, if you bracketed more images, created more images, by all means, you can, merge to HDR with 5 images, with 9 images, no matter. So we're creating our HDR image, and I'm going to tell it to go ahead and merge, and we'll call it Maroon Bells Sunrise Fall 1 HDR1. And then it creates a separate image down here that it just made. And there it is. And you're saying, Dave, that doesn't look too HDR. And you're right, it doesn't. That's the power of this digital negative file. So what I'll do is I'll start by just having it do kind of its auto. And boom, there's you like HDR, there's your HDR. Wow. Okay, so that's kind of crazy HDR that it just created. But we're going to back that off a little bit. We're going to bring down the exposure to pretty close to 0. It just turned down all the highlights and turned up all the shadows, but we like some shadows. We like some, and we don't want all the highlights turned down completely. We want it to look realistic. And I'm going to create some of the blacks, maybe even a little bit more in the shadows. I can take care of that later. And if you're wondering about white balance and, do we have the right tones? We have some snow there that we could use as a white balance. We grab our eyedropper up here, white balance tool it's called. We could put that on the snow, click that, and then that'll show you kind of the white balance based on using the snow. And that's probably, real close to being correct, but it's not real close to being beautiful. So therefore, it has no place in my life. So I'm going back to where I shot it, which is more like this. And I can play with these colors a little bit more as I go. And I'm going to turn up the vibrance just a little bit. I'm going to turn up the saturation just, no, not too much. Huh? That didn't look too good. But the vibrance looked pretty good. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to use my Haze Tool. And I love this Haze Tool. Watch what it does. It's kind of like a clarity plus contrast, all kind of built in one. Does a really, really good job. I'm not really loving this color up here at all. I'm wondering, it looks a bit more realistic, more I can deal with it. And so I really like the reds. Turn those up just a tad. You can't turn them up too much or else it gets really unrealistic. Really like the oranges. Really like the yellows. I'm going to turn those up just a tad. And that was my dog. Someone's at the door. Okay, and we're going to start off with this image. Not too bad, but there's a heck of a lot more we can do with it. I know you guys are all looking at this camera like, oh, well, that's beautiful, Dave. Don't worry, I'm going to take care of that too. So this is kind of my image to start with. And not the best Maroon Bells image picture I ever took, but not the worst either. I kind of selected it because it had some clouds, but I don't know what's going on there. I sure don't like that cloud. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so we'll open when we hit open image, that'll open just the one HDR image that we had highlighted, and we'll open that in Photoshop. So there it is. And I'll make it nice and big, make it easy to see. And I guess first we should get rid of some of the things that we don't like, and first among them is this camera. This guy was taking some kind of low shot picture of. And I'll start off with just asking Content Aware tool to get rid of it. And a lot of times that does a pretty darn good job all by itself. Sometimes it needs a little help. Basically all I'm doing is taking the select tool, highlighting it, right clicking, saying fill and content aware. And that's the pretty darn good job it just did of fixing that. And we'll say select, deselect, although this looks like kind of an aberration, right? So I'm going to select that again. And now I'm going to use a different tool called the patch tool. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to kind of tell it where to grab from, you know, what to sample from. And I'm going to come over here, and that's what it kind of does. Not really perfect, but we'll do it one more time. And this time we'll do content aware fill. And I'll bet this gets it almost perfect. Let's see. Yeah, and now let's go one more because that looks a little unnatural. What we're going to do now is we're going to borrow from our reflection to make this look a little more. So I'm going to take my clone stamp tool. I've got it turned up high, and I'm going to make it a little larger. I like that. Alt, and I'm going to sample from there, and then I'm going to take my sample right here, and I'm going to move it down. And you know, this is down in the bottom of the picture, so it's not quite as big a deal to be perfect. In fact, when it's all said and done, I might just wind up cropping a lot of this out. That's what I'm doing there. So it does a pretty good job of getting rid of that camera there. All right, so now we've got an image that we can kind of work with, although I hate this rock too. I don't know, it's just something about it that's a distraction for me. I'm going to get rid of that one too. And as I thought, it did a pretty darn good job with that rock, and maybe even this one too. There we go. All right, so that's a good place to start, but you know, we got some great clouds here, we got some great reflection, we've got this wonderful alpenglow. There's a lot of things we might want to do to bring this image out, and I'm going to start with using my free tools, which are my Color Effects Pro 2 that I downloaded, and I'm going to start with Color Effects Pro and start creating a little bit more vibrant image. There it is, and I'm going to start with this skylight filter here one, and it just kind of creates more of a sun glow on everything. You can see the difference there, warms everything up. I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to add Pro Contrast, which is, well, I think I'll start with graduated neutral density, and this is how we do with digital what we did with the actual graduated neutral density out there. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our shift line, and we don't want the shift line to go down too far, just so that it covers all the blue and the tops of the mountains. And look what that does. It works just like a real graduated neutral density filter, just like that, boom. And it makes things just a lot nicer up here. And we can adjust how much of effect we want up there, and adjust how much we want the blend. Sounds about right. And lower tonality, we can even darken that up a little bit. That's pretty nice. And I think, I don't know, I think about there. I think that's going to be a good place to start, and I'm just going to create a layer with that. I'm not going to, there's a couple of things I want to do, but I may want to apply them differently, so I'm going to just create a layer there with that. And a lot of times I'll go ahead and flatten my image now. You don't have to. Drive some people crazy, but I do. I don't know. I guess it's just kind of the one to be a neat person, and so I'll layer, flatten my image. Now I'm going to go back into my Color Effects Pro. Back in there. Get to my image. This time I'm going to hit Pro Contrast. I'll start with Dynamic Contrast and just kind of watch what that does. It really, see how it's bringing out the reflection, and it's doing it in a very natural way. There it is. That's pretty nice. And then I'll correct the color and correct the contrast a little bit until I can kind of see what that looks like. And that does give the image just a lot more pop right there. Kind of like that, huh? Okay. All right. That ain't bad right there. I mean, we could stop there and it wouldn't be too bad an image. Flatten that again. One thing, you know, you spend all day roaming around in the mountains and everything else, I can guarantee you're probably going to have yourself some dust spots on either your sensor or your lens or both. And that's my cat. He helps me do a lot of post-processing. Yeah, I hate that gray cloud. It's not attractive at all. Right there, that is. It's pretty good. Let's see if we got any of those spots down here that are messing up our image. Well, you can really just see right straight through to the lake bottom. Isn't that cool? Yeah, there it is. I'm sure I missed some. And so we'll address the elephant in the room here and the humans over there that you guys probably aren't all that thrilled with. And for these that are so small and so far away, we can use just the spot healing brush. And we'll just make that brush the right size and just make these people go away. Now, one thing's funny is when you do this, and if you make the people go away, but if you forget about the reflection, and I've actually done that before, it's kind of funny. And if you post it online, people will point it out. And I think here, for these guys, I'm going to use my full-on content aware. That's funny. All right. So, man and his dog. I'm using a great big tripod there, huh? And they are distracting, you know. I mean, if you're looking for this, you know, serene mountain scene, so it looks like, you know, it's very pristine. And then you see these photographers in the picture. It is definitely a distraction and takes away a little bit from the natural beauty, especially when it's like photographers, you know. You'll notice I'm not getting too bent out of shape when Content Aware doesn't do it perfectly, because one thing about both Content Aware and your spot healing brush, if it doesn't get it right the first time, just, you know, do it again. Just understand how it works. It samples, and so maybe it just sampled from an area that, you know, had something in it that you didn't like, or, you know, just how it works. The more you understand how it works, then the more you're able to get the results you want from it. And there we go. Humans gone. And I don't know what that artificial thing is, but I hate it. It's got to go. All right. All right, human's gone. Got a pretty decent picture right there. We got nice alpenglow. It doesn't look too fake. I like it. And I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop with this particular one. I mean, I realize there's more stuff that we can do to it, and sometimes having a rock or something right here can also be a bit of a distraction. It can kind of break away from the image. And I will get rid of those now that I think about it. And for the purists who are saying, "Oh, well, that's not exactly how the scene was, and that's artificial," and I totally get that, and I respect it. And if that's the way you look at it, then that's fine. I completely get that. Me, to me, a lot of those things are really just distractions that are distracting from the main point that I'm trying to make with this picture. I want to focus on the beauty. I want to focus on the colors, and having artificial things in there like people and just rocks. I mean, I don't really mind this set of rocks right here for one reason. It provides kind of what's called an anchor for the eye. So you've got like this spot here. They're not I wish that rock isn't there, but I'm not going to go through all the hassle of getting that one. But just one little anchor for the eye right here, and somehow that just helps people view this image. If it was just a perfect right down the middle reflection without anything right here, I think it'd be a little harder to appreciate, a little harder to look at. Put the anchor here, and it helps people understand what they're looking at a little better. And so this is an anchor, works for me. Some things, and I don't know about this. This blue is kind of bugging me. One great thing about one of the more recent updates into Adobe Camera Raw is now you can go back into Adobe Camera Raw from Photoshop. So I can click Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and now that I've done some work on it, I can go back into Raw. And for example, I ain't loving the blue. So I can come down here and maybe change my shade of blue a little bit if I don't like it. And that's pretty subtle, but I like it better. And maybe even desaturate it a little. There we go. And to me, that looks more realistic and better. You can change the luminance too. Yeah, I like that better. And some people may like a darker sky, but this to me just looks more realistic and looks more like I remember the scene. And you can go back into this wonderful dehaze filter, maybe ask for even a little bit more pop. And sometimes, after all my fiddling with a picture, it can really challenge the basic exposure of it. So a lot of times before I'm completely done, just to see, I'll hit the auto, and not loving that result there. But I do like how it turned down the highlights. I do like how it added just a little bit of contrast. And yeah, it took away a little bit of shadow right here. I like that. I like it. I agree. That works. All right, so I'll say okay right here. And that'll be good for this image, for this video, which is really just to show you how to even, this was a challenging photograph to take, and I've showed you how to combine those images to get a good even exposure that shows it a lot more like your eyes actually saw it and processed it. So that's it for this one, and thank you for watching our video. And the next one I'll do, we'll work on some aspen tree trunks. All right, thanks.